we're going to proceed when we get the high sign in a minute here with Mr. Maselli's presentation, and then do cross after that, then proceed with board questioning sorry, get my notes in order. For Brian, and we're going to then move to witnesses, then move to closing statements, and then we'll have a conversation. So just 1 second till we get the okay from audiovisual back there. Green light, we're good to go. Thank you, Mr. Maselli.
All right, thank you, thank you. I'm just going to go ahead and say, I'm not here because I have any ill will towards Mr. Stern. My reason for being here is I've got what I believe to be valid concerns for the well-being of my family, my neighbors, and my property. I do want Mr. Stern to have safe access to his property that doesn't put his neighbors at risk. Regarding like our lake, Echo Lake, that we live on, that this stream enters through my property. Even right now, we're looking at repairs to our dam with quotes exceeding $100,000 and dredging, including material flow from this stream with quotes exceeding $300,000. These quotes have been shopped out by our homeowners association.
And I don't want to object to Mr. Maselli's closing remarks, but I thought he was going to present evidence and then do closing remarks. But I think he's just making a statement without.
Yeah, I will be providing evidence not related to the statement I just made.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're in
so
that-
Mr.
we're in that
Maselli,
statement
if you
period.
could probably get to like the evidence portion of your.
You want me to do that first? Okay.
Yes, because this
Yeah.
is
Okay.
really.
Yeah, well, I'll do that
Okay,
for sure.
thank you.
And actually, that was right there. We are continuing to see turbid water coming down that stream through my property and then entering the lake. So I've got a photograph from May 12th, 2025 from my house showing that water mixing into the lake. During rain events, we're still seeing it. I also visited the site on Mr. Wilkie's property within the right-of-way that was excavated by Mr. Stern's contractor. And I took videos and some photographs of the erosion and state of the erosion control measures that were within that right-of-way. I've got some of those photographs that I would like to admit into evidence.
All right, before you do that, please make sure that you show those to Mr. Goulden. And can you also, did you personally take those photographs?
Yes, sir.
And when did you take those photographs?
On May 12th, 2025 for the picture of the rain event mixing into the lake. On June 22nd, 2025 on my site visit within the right-of-way.
And how many pictures do you have?
In terms of what I'm submitting,
Yes,
I've got a group of 12 pictures.
12
In
pictures.
addition to one picture that was taken on May 12th, 2025. I've got multiple copies that can be shared if this gets admitted into evidence.
Okay.
And we don't object to the pictures, but the commentary that he's making as to what he thinks these things are showing, I believe would be objectionable on the pictures themselves.
I believe they are observations.
Okay, let's pass it to Mr.
so-
Wilkie as well, then staff, then the board.
Would you like me to go to the staff first
No.
before it goes to
Wilkie,
the board?
then
Mr.
staff,
Wilkie,
then the
and
board.
then give us a copy. And then what you would probably need to do is for each picture, describe when it was taken and that, and what's the purpose of showing the picture?
Which is what I did in the text, which was being objected to.
Okay, well, let's go.
We're gonna
Let's
admit
first
that-
see
we're gonna
whether
admit
these
this
are
document.
Admissible, yeah. How many copies do you have?
You this one, as long as I get one of them back.
I've got 6 additional copies right here. And that would be 7 right there. I believe so because Mr. Wilkins provided a copy back.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't need it, but thank you very much.
And this having been admitted, we can proceed with your description.
Okay. Would you like me to go through and describe each photograph?
Please.
Okay. First photograph, once again, was taken during a rain event on May 12th, 2025, from our house. It's showing water mixing into Echoed Lake that you can see turbidity, so discoloration. And that stream is the stream in question that flows from both Mr. Wilkie's property and Mr. Stern's property, which feeds into it.
Are we seeing that stream above the roof line on the right side of the photo?
Correct.
Okay.
On page 2, and on, all of these photographs were taken on June 22nd, 2025 by myself. These photographs are of Mr. Stern's excavated roadway within the right-of-way on Mr. Wilkie's property. The first picture, top left, is sediment overtopping a collapsed silt fence with the stream directly below that. So the right side of that image is actually the stream bed. The second image right next to that is of that same area, just viewed from above. You can see my footprint there. None of these photos were taken during a storm or rain event. It was just a day that I was able to access this. The third picture, bottom left, is showing sediment flow along that roadway, which leads down to where those overtopped silt fences are. And the next picture is showing erosion channeling down the roadway, and this is near the bottom of the roadway, the bottom of the right-of-way.
Mr. Maselli, clarification on the photo on the top left?
Yes, sir.
In the top right corner of that, is that Mr. Wilkie's Drive or the road?
Yes, that is correct. That is Mr. Wilkie's driveway beyond, so uphill and beyond where Mr. Stern's current excavated roadway branches off.
Is the creek bed between the silt fence and the road?
The creek bed is between the silt fence and Mr. Stern's road. Correct, but it is buried by silt. Okay. In the image to the right of that, you can actually see one of the support posts sticking out. If you look above my footprint to the left of that tree, you can kind of see the support post that's jutting out, and that's actually the support post for the silt fence that is buried below that. I'm going to move on to the third page, unless there's any questions about that page. Okay. Okay, so the third page, you'll see 2 images along the top. Both of those images show a silt fence that was installed, but that is collapsed. They are, the one on the left is kind of looking downhill with Mr. Stern's excavated roadway on the right. And then the one on the right is standing on Mr. Stern's excavated roadway, looking down to the creek bed, and Mr. Wilkie's driveway is at the top of that image. The next 2 images below that show deep channeling. If you could look at them closely, I know the definition of the image may be hard to see, but this is looking up the hill towards the hairpin turn So kind of on the upper end of that first stretch, which is within the right-of-way. And you can see deep erosion, deep channeling there where material has been scraped away. The following page has the hairpin corner. So you've got your first slope, and then you go around a sharp left hairpin corner going uphill. This is showing kind of erosion around the inside of that corner. And you can see some slumping on the inside of that corner. And then below that is the outside of that hairpin corner looking uphill. And you'll see steep banks that are cut slopes, excavated out, and it appears that there's some slumping and some erosion happening on those. I did not measure them, but they appear, based on my observation, to be around 20 to 30 feet. And for reference, when looking at those bottom images, if you follow those to the right, that would lead to the outside of the hairpin corner, and directly below that is the creek bed. It appears that there's some fill slope on the outside of that hairpin corner above the creek bed there, and it appears to be steep, but I do not know the angle. Any questions on those images?
No.
Okay, so I'm going to continue with this then, because after that, on June 26th, I actually went down to Buncombe County Erosion Control, and I met with Jason Guess and Jason Mole. Those are the erosion control officers that were, Jason Guess had authored the notice of noncompliance. Jason Mole was listed as the inspector of that original one. So I went down there and had a conversation with them. They stated to me that they had been to the property multiple times, including within the past month, and that the lot is currently in violation. I showed the pictures that I've just presented from my visit, and Mr. Mole, who performed the latest visit, stated that they were aware of the conditions.
Objection to what Mr. Mole stated.
Sustained, we're gonna not allow, we can't allow third-party testimony.
Okay, I was led to believe by my conversation with Mr. Mole that they were aware of the conditions shown and that erosion control measures throughout the property had failed and not been maintained, including beyond the right-of-way. I showed the picture also in my evidence. So the first picture showing the mixing into the lake. And I was led to believe from that conversation that while it is impossible to determine the exact percentage of sediment and debris coming from Mr. Stern's property versus Mr. Wilkie's, I was led to believe
Well, then
that.
we're just going to object to the speculation if it's impossible to determine.
Please let me finish.
We have to
Made
hear,
an objection.
Please.
we have a right to hear objections, yeah. Mr. Golden, can you restate that?
Yeah, I made an objection because it calls for complete speculation as to what he was led to believe when he in fact just testified that they can't determine for certain.
Sustained,
The percentage.
sustained, and you may rephrase.
Okay. I was led to believe by my conversation with them that the excavation on Mr. Stern's property was a contributing factor to the sediment entering the lake. I'm not able to determine the percentage, but what I was led to believe by my conversation with Jason Guess and Jason Mole was that the excavation performed on Mr. Stern's property was a contributing factor. I asked if any lenience was being given due to Helene. because I hadn't seen any corrective action taking place during my visit. I saw the state of the silt fences and erosion control measures. And when I asked if lenience was being given due to Helene, I was led to believe that while lenience is granted to properties on a case-by-case basis, it did not apply to situations where actions taken by the property owner prior to lien were a contributing factor. I asked what measures had been taken by their office to get the site into compliance, and was led to believe that, was told that additional notices of violation.
Well, objection if you
Mr.
would.
Chair, I really feel like if he really needed to bring the guy as a witness, I'm having a lot of problem with him telling stories about, here's what we discussed. It's like, the man should have been brought as a witness, and I can't, I'm
And we
tired of
just-
the stories.
I agree with that. We just can't hear third-party testimony. We're also kind of on a tangent here. We've heard the testimony before in other ways, and so if you want to narrow down what you've got to present to items we have not heard about already, that would be helpful.
Where I'm going with this is that it appears to me that Mr. Stern is not taking actions to mitigate what he's already been found in notice of noncompliance of erosion issues happening on the property. In fact, from the first violation, there were 5 separate violations
Well,
found,
I guess-
which is in
I
evidence.
guess I'm just going to object again. We're still going down the area of violations not relevant to the standards, the 4 standards that are set forth in the Buncombe County ordinance related to variances.
Overall, we're going to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. The concern here, I believe you said overall, yeah. The concern here is that part of the consideration here is that the hardship did not result from actions taken by the petitioner, and also that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, will secure public safety and welfare, and will preserve substantial justice. And based on everything I've seen thus far, it doesn't appear that Mr. Stern has made an effort to protect his neighbors downstream by correcting what was found to be non-compliant, which was required by this violation. I mean, it even says at the bottom, not only, you have it in record, so I'm not going to read everything word for word, but not only should he be installing these protective measures, but it says that you must maintain these measures in proper working order until the site is completely stabilized.
Can we move along?
The testimony is legitimate. We can hear it. We're allowed to hear it. Yeah.
I'm not going to beat that up any further than that, but I believe that it doesn't seem like any action's being taken, even while being in violation, to correct these issues.
Mr. Maselli, do you have an actual copy of the NOV?
The one I'm referencing is actually the one that you already have in evidence.
And what, I'm trying to make sure that, because based on my list, I don't see any NOV that's in evidence.
The last meeting, we submitted an NOV into evidence.
Okay,
You don't have a record of that?
I don't.
There weren't any submitted on Mr. Stern's behalf?
It wasn't, yeah, it was submitted during the
we
last meeting.
Mr. Stern,
We
okay,
discussed
Brian, do you concur with that?
We discussed it in the hearing.
Okay, I'm good. I'm just wanting to make sure
I
that.
do want to make sure that is in evidence, though.
I don't think we introduced it as evidence. I'm just going
I
back.
did.
Okay,
And are those in the packet, though, that the board got?
okay. We'll make sure that it is in the, yeah. I'm okay. I just don't know if it was formally admitted, and I don't know, because I don't have it on my evidence list. But we can put it, it's not,
Yeah,
it's
if we-
not a deal breaker.
I mean, it's a
So-
public record, so I don't have any objection to
Okay,
it going in.
all right.
I don't have it on my list that it went in either, but.
Yeah, the board would ask staff to put that in the record as an exhibit.
so-
Thank you so much.
So done.
Thank you. You have one that I don't. Uh, That's the one that I referenced during my most recent meeting, but no, the one that I submitted into evidence was
It was
from
probably
August 9th, 2023,
Okay, so it's the original NOV. Okay,
correct?
yes.
But they're,
Yeah, if we'll admit.
I will not
we'll-
say anything else
we'll-
on that
No,
one
no,
other
we're
because I
good,
don't have
we're
access
good.
to it.
It's a
We'll
public
admit both,
record, it's
yeah.
not. So I'm gonna put that, Brian, Mr. Golden, as Maselli Exhibit number 2. Thank you.
Yes, because this was number 1, I believe.
Exactly.
Correct.
I'm gonna find that for you.
I mean, honestly, that's most of what I have. It's,
Okay.
my concern is that the petitioner, Mr. Stern, the hardship did result from actions taken by him.
Mr. Maselli, this is not the time to give kind of your closing statement and
Understood. Okay.
summation of what you think the evidence means. And I'm not trying to stop you, but this is for you to present evidence and to give your testimony.
All right, I have no further evidence.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Anyone else you wanted to call?
No, well, I think that we need to make sure that Mr. Wilkie.
I want to
do you-
finish Mr. Maselli's presentation, right? So let's finish that first.
Question, sorry, I don't know if this is on. What was the date on your letter? I just want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
sending the right
the one that I submitted last meeting was, and this is, I don't have the full letter in front of me, but I do have a copy here in this room somewhere. August 9th, 2023,
August
but it was
9th.
the full set. It had also a notice, a continuation of noncompliance on there. So it had 2 site visits.
Okay.
It's not the one from 2025, but I did discuss that
If-
in my,
If you have
in
that
this-
full package that you submitted last time, we might want to go ahead and officially record it, because if it had more than just the initial NOV, I want to make sure that I'm not giving you the wrong documents.
Okay, we'll get that afterwards, but,
Okay. Just want to make sure you were finished with your presentation.
yes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. And Mr. Wilkie, do you have any cross or any questions for Mr. Maselli? Thank you, sir. Mr. Gould, any questions or cross for Mr. Maselli?
I do not. No questions for Mr. Maselli.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Board questions? No questions I'm seeing. Going twice? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
At this time, we will ask Brian to kind of open up, back up the discussion real quick with us, with the board, to clarify that over the past month, have there been any new developments on Mr. Stern's behalf, or been any approaches between the parties coming from him that we need to talk about before we proceed with the witnesses and the closings and all that? Any updates from him?
Well, I think as part of my rebuttal, it would help answer that question. My rebuttal would be very short. So I think if they are done with their witnesses as the 2 parties withstanding, at the appropriate time, I would call our engineer again as a rebuttal witness, just to address
That's
that
fine.
exact
Let's do
question.
that now. Let's do that part now.
All right, we would, and Mr. Etzel, Wyatt Etzel, he's been qualified as an expert.
We remember him.
And
Yeah.
he was
and
already been sworn in.
He's good.
Hey, Wyatt, can you just tell the board your name again?
Wyatt Edsel.
And Wyatt, after our last meeting where the board asked us to investigate, along with the other parties, alternative access to Mr. Stern's property, were you able to preliminary kind of look at alternative accesses?
I made a very surface level investigation of alternative access.
And if I think I'm still plugged in, if I could show it and then hand it.
And then Wyatt, can you just use a bigger voice? I'm having a hard time hearing you, so my hearing aid folks are probably having a hard time too.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just use your outside voice. And what I'm going to ask him to testify to is this. If you guys can share just for a minute, make sure I've got enough copies.
Is this a new
Yeah,
document?
this is just going to be a new exhibit.
Okay. This would be exhibit.
And I'll get him to identify it, but I just want the board.
Thank you.
And Wyatt, I'm gonna, well, you've seen it and it's posted up there on the board. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes.
Is this something that you created after the last meeting?
Yes, this is very preliminary, very conceptual alignment of a proposed road across the piece of property that Mr. Wilkie is offering an easement to Mr. Stern.
And does this fairly and accurately represent a copy of the actual preliminary drawing that you did as a result of last board meetings?
Yes.
And we would just ask that it be admitted as applicant's exhibit 4. Thank you.
Hearing no objection, so admitted.
And if you could just explain the board, it's oriented a little differently than what we've been looking at, but can you explain to the board what it shows?
Yes, on the left-hand side of the page is the beginning of a proposed road that would leave Mr. Wilkie's road and cross his property and get to Mr. Stern's proposed house site on the right side of the page. The road is 1,100 feet long and gains 230 vertical feet in elevation with centerline slopes nearing 30%. This plan could definitely be optimized by lengthening the road to reduce the slopes, but I was just trying to really quickly and schematically conceptualize the linear distance and vertical distance that would have to be overcome to accomplish a road in that alternate route.
And you said the center line of the road approached 30% grade?
It does in this concept, and as I mentioned, it could be reduced by lengthening the road. It's currently drawn at 1,100 linear feet.
And once you lengthen the road, that just requires, what does it require? More grading, more cut, more fill?
Yeah, it would require more linear feet of road, so we would be reaching further back and forth across the slope to get the center line slope of the road down.
And the road that is currently constructed in the deeded access, do you remember what the slope of that road, the percentage slope was?
I think it was near 20.
All right. Those would be, and so this schematic drawing was done as a result of the idea of alternate access across Mr. Wilkie's property.
Yeah, I will just iterate it. It's very preliminary conceptual drawing just to see if it's even possible to get there with the current topography, so.
All right. Those would be my questions of Mr. Etzel.
Before we go to cross real quick, just so the board, everybody can be aware of what we're looking at here. The right side of the page, that blue square that we're only seeing a portion of, that blue square on top of the right side does depict approximately where the home site would be. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The very right topmost corner of the page does show the very edge of the home site.
And then the red line coming through diagonally, sort of up and down, that's the property line between Stern and Wilkie, and this is the narrow parcel to the left, to the west side.
Yes, sir. The triangular parcel to the left.
And it's presumed, although not pictured here, that this proposed driveway would come down and hit that blue road, which is Old Fort.
The blue and green shown in this are the stream and stream buffer.
Yeah.
Mr. Wilkie's road is not actually traced, but it is where the contour lines are spaced out at the very bottom of the page. That's the location of the existing road. I apologize, it's not more clear. It was very.
Is that the lower road to access both these driveways, or is that the actual driveway?
Yes, sir. This is the lower road, very near Old Fort Road, as was suggested we would leave within about 100 feet of Old Fort Road.
And just so we understand the graph below, it's a little bit technical here, but in layman's terms, you're moving on the left-hand side from the elevation of 2720 roughly to 2960-ish, and that would be the elevation at the home site, at the top elevation.
Yes, sir.
And
the
then,
center line slopes are shown above the profile view.
Right, so the percentages from 4 to 19 to 30, those are the percentage slopes as the road continues along in duration.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's steepest at maybe 33 is what's showing here. That would be 3/4 up the road. and then at the home site towards 6%. Great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sorry. Mr. Wilkie, any cross questions?
And be sure to speak in the microphone. Hold on, you need to speak in the microphone. Thank you. Should be up.
Is that working?
It is.
If I understand you correctly, this is not necessarily the optimum position of the road. It's just demonstrating that it is feasible to contrast the lateral versus vertical travel to make sure that it can be done. Is that correct?
I think that's an accurate statement, yes.
Did you visit the site to do this, or did you just do this from the contour maps?
This is done from publicly available LiDAR contours
Okay.
and GIS parcel boundaries.
And does where the road terminates up there at the house site, does that connect to the dead end where the driveway dead ends currently?
Not necessarily. It's just trying to get to the elevation of the house seat and the approximate location of the house seat.
Okay. So
So connecting to the actual driveway would require it to be even further vertically. Because I'm connecting to the lowest point,
further vertically or further horizontally?
both.
I don't understand.
I'm connecting this road to the lowest portion of the house footprint.
But the road, the existing driveway that's roughed in, it goes
connects
past
to
the house
the
site.
highest point of the house footprint. The
Okay.
uphill side. This proposed concept connects to the downhill side of the house, and the existing road would connect to the uphill side of the house. Which, you know, at the end of the day, we're talking about 230 vertical feet across this road and maybe 15 or 20 feet across the house footprint.
What was the purpose of this? Was this just only to demonstrate that it is possible? Was that the purpose of this?
It was, you know, there was a lot of questions asked about this at the last meeting, and I just wanted to make a really quick conceptual sketch to see if it was feasible and possible to connect from the lower road to the house seat.
And you, I believe, confirmed that that is possible. Is that,
I think it is possible, but it does result in steep centerline slopes, large cut and fill slopes, and a long linear run of road, which could result in exceeding the disturbance limits of the steep slope permit.
but it is possible to improve this over your proposed route. Is that a fair statement?
I don't know that it is approvable, no. It's just, this is a conceptual representation of one option of a way to get there.
And you don't know that it can be improved on? You don't think it can be
No,
improved on?
I said it can be improved on.
Okay.
You can extend the length of the road to reduce the centerline slopes, but it will increase the limits of disturbance by doing so.
Sure. Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Maselli, any questions?
Okay, good. Just want to make sure. So you did not do a site visit when you were coming up with this concept?
This concept's based on publicly available LiDAR data and GIS contour boundaries and not a site visit.
Okay. When you did the drawing for the existing right-of-way, your engineering drawing, did you do a site visit during that time?
Yes.
When was, just to confirm, when was the last time you've done a site visit?
A year and a half, probably, plus or minus.
Okay. So you wouldn't be basing this Would you be basing this on any of your observations from that site visit or purely from publicly available data?
This is purely from publicly available data, just to quantify the vertical elevation change that would have to be overcome to get from that road to the proposed house site.
Okay. And then just adding to one of your last statements, a question. You mentioned that it comes to the bottom of the house site, and you mentioned that there would be more elevation gain. Roughly at what pitch would that be, though?
I can't accurately answer that question without further investigation.
Okay. Would you be able to tell me if it was closer to 30% or closer to the 6.47% that you've got listed at the end of this?
I really couldn't say without further investigation. It's off the contour map that I've provided.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Any board questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Did you consider any high-density standards or any high-density, like if you moved over from low-density to high-density solutions? And then any mitigations? You know, Victoria did testimony on all kinds of different options that could be available. Did you guys consider any of that in the last month?
We have considered some of those options very preliminarily and conceptually, and they come with a much larger impact on the cost of the project. The high-density water quality treatment standards that would need to be implemented to treat all impervious surfaces in the development would be a very drastic change from the current approach for stormwater detention and rate match.
Is that true, I'm sorry, ma'am?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is that true after evaluating the entire parcels and compliance with that? Or is it just, if we just considered the portion close to, within
The stream buffer and
stream buffer
vegetative
area?
setback.
If we just considered that and considered that compliance with,
Then it would be substantially less than considering the whole parcel, because the portion of the road that is in the stream buffer is only a fraction of the entire road length. However, the high-density standards do require water quality treatment, whereas the low-density standards require a rate match. And the difference in the infrastructure is a significant amount of cost to the project.
okay. Other questions?
Two questions.
Yes, sir.
As I looked at this chart, I recognize a similarity that was in the original site plan, the elevation for that, which begs the question of which one of these, this hypothetical, as well as the original site plan representation for the drive and the 30-foot setback issue, which one is larger in terms of impervious material?
I don't know that I can accurately quantify that right now without studying the plans a little bit closer. If we could pull the plans up, I could probably answer that question.
If we could pull
Actually, I may have them on this computer screen here.
I've just pulled, is that the plan you're talking about?
Yes, can we look at the road profile sheet?
Yep.
I think it's C-2.0.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, sir. So this depicts the linear profile of the current proposed road, not the concept that was presented today. And as you can see in this profile, the current proposed road is approximately 1,350 linear feet, and the alternative proposed is approximately 1,100 linear feet. However, this road does not exceed 17% centerline grade, and the other proposed road is at 30% centerline grade.
And with the proposed, my second, I think, last question, on the proposed, the second one, not this one, the one that gets up to 33%, where would that runoff from that road end up?
In the same stream.
All right, thank you.
Other questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
Brian, did you have any redirect?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Anything else to add on to that, Brian?
no, I think that was it as to what efforts we were taking to look at that same thing that Ms. Morisani
Okay.
requesting.
So the board, I think, is ready to proceed today, even though we have 10 minutes left on the clock. We have a 4 o'clock hard stop as a regular procedure for the board. I'm going to ask if the board's willing to continue 15 minutes to 4:15 today in order to hear from some witnesses and hear closing and deliberate.
Yes.
If we need to continue on that, we'll vote again to 4:30 if we need to, so. Thank you, yeah, we'll consent on that. Thank you. We'll do that. And then at this time, we will ask how many witnesses, potential witnesses here want to speak today and address the board from the public. We got one, we got any more? Anybody that signed up in advance, Griffin, who is on record?
So
This was for a prior meeting, so it may not be.
we do have, there were individuals who had submitted applications for standing and either did not appear at the June meeting or their standing application was denied at the last meeting. So
Okay.
we do have those individuals.
Are you able to read those off for us, see if they're here?
Yes, give me one moment.
We could, yeah, that's fine, let's do that. Okay, so we had one hand, let's raise our hands again if you plan to address the board.
Does anybody that wants to speak on this issue, please
One.
raise your hand.
2 hands so far, okay, sounds good. With the low number of hands, we'll go ahead and open it up to witness testimony, and we'll give you a cap, maybe 3 minutes to help us out with our timing, to convey your point, and feel free to approach when you're ready.
And once again, make sure that your testimony is based on your personal knowledge of the site, if you viewed it or not. So just make sure that that's something that you need, your testimony has to be relevant. So thank you.
Yeah, and we'll swear you in briefly too.
And if I can add, new and different to what we've already heard.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Gina Maselli, and I live at 1419 Old Fort Road, so I'm directly downstream of this property. When I initially heard about this variance, it was from a street sign next to the road. And
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, is she supposed to be sworn in?
oh,
We did.
I was already sworn in, yeah.
Oh, we did,
did.
sorry.
Thank you.
So when I initially heard about this variance, as I said, it was from a roadside sign, and I looked up what it was. And when I saw on the form that it was regarding stormwater, I instantly had a panic attack because of the amount of damage we witnessed during Helene and the amount of loss that our community suffered during Helene. We have lost 15 neighbors during Helene. Most of their houses are no longer there. We have all around us empty lots that are stripped down to stone from the amount of debris that came off the same mountain. It's the other side of the mountain, but it's the same mountain that this is being considered on. It is known in the area that the rock of that this mountain is not stable. And there have been geologist videos on YouTube talking about how concerned citizens like myself should be attending meetings just like this one to raise these concerns because of the safety issues that these mountains that we now know that they can be so unstable in storm events like what we've seen. Just in the past week, we've seen heightened flooding. I'm not here to argue what's happening with the weather. I'm not here to argue why, but it is generally known that flooding events are happening more often. And because of that, that is why I'm here today. Member Catherine, I can't read your last name, but asked at one point to Mr. Wilkie, why are you so concerned about this one route? Why are you not granting the other one? The reason is that danger. The reason that we are all here today is we are concerned about that danger. And as I stated when I was sworn in initially, I'm not a hydrologist, I'm not a geologist, but I am a human being who still has sleep issues because of the horrific things I have seen happen to this same exact mountain that took away 15 of my neighbors. 13 for that landslide, 2 down the road for other landslides. And I would like y'all just to recognize that a lot of the people in this room live downstream of this stream we're talking about, and not just downstream of the stream, but downstream of the Echo Lake Dam, which if we saw a failure event like we saw in Craigtown, that dam wouldn't stand a chance. The slides that happened in Craigtown went 2 and 3 miles away from where they started, and they took out everything. Sorry. There's nothing left of my neighbors' neighborhoods that used to be there. Their lives, their homes they built, their gardens they would be planting right now, they don't exist because it's bare rock. And that's why I'm here today. I don't want my property to be bare rock. I don't want me and my husband and my daughter to be a memory that's listed in the names of the lost. I don't want my neighbors here to have their names listed as memories of those lost. If we have another storm, even a fraction of the size of Helene, there have been experts that have said this could happen again because the ground was destabilized by Helene in the way that it was. And I am terrified at the thought that that could happen to this exact mountainside if the stream is cut in and disturbed the way that it's being proposed today. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. And yes, sir, I think you had your hand up back there in the blue shirt. I'm sorry, yeah. Yes, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you.
I'll swear you in
We'll swear you in.
first. All right. So please raise your right hand and state your name.
Dorothy Stiles.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I want to first identify that I have not visited this property and I do not live below the property in question. So I might not be an admissible witness, but I would like to say that I live on the other side of that ridge in some property very similar and have had similar experiences on the property where I live. So if that allows me to make a statement, then I will make my statement. Otherwise, I'll be excused.
Thank you, ma'am. Please go ahead.
My name, as you know, is Dorothy Stiles. I have lived in Swannanoa in the same house by the same creek for 78 years. I saw how the creek flowed before there was no development above my house, and I see now how the creek flows when there is development above my house. Water runs downhill. The more impervious surface and land disturbance up on the slopes, the more water comes down, and it comes down faster. The faster more water comes down, the more destruction is visited on the people and property below. We need to pay attention to what our storms are telling us about how to live in a place that has been impacted by major floods and landslides for the last 6 million years. I live in Lytle Cove in Swannanoa on the north face of the Swannanoa Ridge. In the Helene storm, a debris flow came down into a pond at the head of the cove. When the debris flow entered the pond, it pushed a great surge of water over the dam and down through the cove, destroying many of my neighbors' stream crossings and property. The more disturbance on the slopes, the more likely for a landslide to happen. It would seriously endanger those living below the lake if more disturbance is allowed close to the stream.
Thank you, ma'am, so much. Yes, ma'am. I think you had your hand raised.
All right. Please raise your right hand and state your name.
Ginger Horton.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity and opening up the floor to share our witness experience. My concern about this variance, if it is passed, is that after Helene, I've seen the damage of water and how quickly it comes. People didn't have time to get out of their houses. Firefighter was rescuing somebody in one mudslide, and another mudslide came and took him. The mountains have suffered because of Helene. A lot of them are unstable. In my own front yard, my cat was walking, and next thing I knew, she was gone. I was looking, couldn't find her. I have a huge sinkhole in my yard that I didn't see. I've read stories where people have sinkholes now under their houses. You guys, please consider what passing this measure would do to the families that live down below where this water will flow. We've seen Helene. We've experienced that loss.
Thank you so
Please
much.
hear our words today.
Appreciate you. And at this time, I want to sort of direct some of the board questions we've had so far back to staff and sort of clarify the stormwater issue before. Not yet, because we have to hear closing statements, so, yeah. To sort of, I guess, Craig, if you want to start this one, you can. Do you want to go through the stormwater, the options for the high and low density water treatment? Or do you want to start that one? Okay, let's do it. Well,
Right. Victoria, so I have a question. If they move to a high-density solution, can you remind us, your opening statements today, you're talking about some of the ideas on what a high-density strategy could look like for the portions of the stream buffer or the vegetative setup. Can you review those, please, for us?
Yeah, so most of the traditional high-density primary stormwater control measures are not suitable for this location. They take a bigger footprint than's available, and they require more depth. There may be a couple that are options, things like permeable pavement or potentially some underground systems, maybe some infiltration, but we also have to keep in mind that this is a road bed, and so we have to compact the road bed. And so a lot of practices that are traditionally feasible in non-road areas are not feasible here. But that doesn't mean there aren't any options. It just means that most of the traditional options are not readily viable. I can't say for sure that full high-density standards can be met in this location, but there are certainly practices that could be implemented to achieve the maximum level of treatment feasible to meet the intent of the high-density water quality standards.
and does shrinking the consideration of the full property acreage to this small area that's located by the stream, by the buffer area, is that helpful in trying to mitigate or meet some of these standards?
Absolutely. I think that any level of treatment that can be provided to meet the intent of the vegetated setback requirement, to provide that buffer for stormwater runoff to get treatment and infiltrate in that buffer. Any additional measures that could be implemented to slow the water down, infiltrate it where we can, cool it off where we can, remove sediment where we can, would be beneficial.
So I guess something, if the applicant is on the phone, if we can sort of relay and get back an okay or a response on whether the applicant's willing to work with staff on whatever, a list of perhaps feasible water control solutions, water quality solutions there are on this site, given that topography, given the proximity to the road, given the stormwater concerns that we have here.
Is it for the entire 1,300 feet of the road, or just that area inside that we're requesting
The board's going to
variance?
talk about it during our deliberation, but I think in advance of that, the board might want to consider shrinking those requirements down from the entire parcel to that one area that's affected near the driveway and near the
I
stream.
think with the stream, where the stream vegetation, right?
There are two areas where this driveway is encroaching into the setback.
And if they can put it up, I can show it to them. I put
Okay.
it up on the screen. It would help
Right.
everybody to see where it is. So those are the two areas, and I'll make, so you all can see it, right? I mean, my eyesight is so bad, I can't see
Yeah, we
anything.
got it. Thanks.
Yeah, so right up in here, this little small area, and then this area of the roadway with the stream that's outlined here in yellow. So if that's what you are talking about, then I would certainly,
Yeah, so one of the what if there was a condition added that you work with Victoria
Am I allowed to make a recommendation for a condition?
Yeah, go
from
ahead.
staff?
I think the best thing would be to do is to get, if there's a potential before we go down that, let's bring out the proposed condition to see whether that is something that they would consider.
And am I allowed to make a
Yeah.
recommendation for the proposed condition?
I would hope so, since you're the expert.
And I think,
All right.
and I think on this, I think as we
I
think
don't know what
about
I'm allowed to
this,
do here.
I want to make sure, I think the board can weigh in later at this process, I guess, but all the way from where the distance from where the road touches the easement road to driveway, all the way up to the first turn, to this first switchback.
Well, I
And that would
actually-
include both of those areas, so
Let-
some buffer away from the stream.
Yeah, let Victoria, define what the scope is, but I don't think I think the intent is not the whole thing, but it's to address the
Yeah,
stormwater
I think I
pieces.
have an idea for,
Okay.
for maybe 2 conditions that could be lumped into one as a 2-sentence condition, maybe. A condition being to limit the discharge of untreated stormwater runoff from built-upon area into the stream buffer to the maximum extent practicable. And so that would be one, and that would basically ensure that as much of the impervious area outside the buffer that is draining in, that the stormwater runoff is getting into the buffer, that's minimized to the maximum extent practicable.
Victoria, could you repeat that again?
Yes. To minimize the discharge of untreated stormwater runoff from built-upon area.
Built upon area?
I might need to invert the phrasing there. To minimize the discharge of stormwater runoff within the stream buffer from built-upon area to the maximum extent practicable.
And in lay terms, that includes things you mentioned, like.
That means that the area outside, the non-red areas on that graphic that we were just seeing, that exhibit, the non-red areas the stormwater runoff from the non-red areas will eventually enter the buffer, but we don't want them to enter as direct discharge into the buffer. We want to have them discharge outside the buffer, so then they sheet flow through the buffer, can infiltrate, get the treatment, et cetera, et cetera.
And that would be like.
And that's
road-
the low-density standard.
Like road type and pavers and things like that, that would
Yes, any built-upon area,
increase the permeability. of-
basically limit the discharge of stormwater runoff within the buffer to the maximum extent practicable. The second piece would be to provide, to provide water quality treatment to meet high-density standards to the maximum extent practicable for the built-upon area located within the buffer.
One question, just for clarity. The definer, is it correct to say that your office is the sole definer of what is the maximum extent practicable?
Yes. Yes, we would work with the design engineer and ask questions that we would have them answer to determine that we have met the maximum extent reasonably practicable.
Okay, so if we could just add the maximum extent practicable per those people.
The stormwater,
As determined by the
the
stormwater administrator?
Buncombe County Stormwater Office, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could work. Do you mind if I see what the language is there?
I'm working on it
Sorry-
as we speak.
sorry,
we
Kurt.
speak fast. So first one, I have minimize the untreated runoff in the stream buffer from the built-upon area to the maximum extent practicable as determined by the stormwater administrator. And then the next one would be provide water quality treatment of the high-density standard. So would that, once again, be water quality treatment for the buffer?
Provide water quality treatment. I would say that the phrasing would probably be to provide water quality treatment of stormwater runoff from built-upon area located, and we should say vegetated setback, not stream buffer,
So
sorry.
built-upon
regulatory.
area in the vegetated
Setback
to setback.
to meet high-density water quality standards to the maximum extent practicable. I mean, I'm just gonna, do you mind if I just come over to you, like, your shoulder?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That one is blackout screens, isn't she fancy? Do you mind if I just read it? Is that something you would? I could just send it to you on Teams.
Yeah,
You want me to do that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and craft those statements and just send them to Kurt on Teams right now.
So Brian, I guess my question would be for all the parties, to Brian and the parties standing, does anybody have any issues with those conditions?
I have a question maybe for Victoria, because, or hopefully you're familiar with that hairpin turn kind of up that first slope, right?
Yeah.
Currently, we're seeing signs that water is flowing above that hairpin turn straight over the bank.
Okay.
So that would be coming out of the zone that you guys are trying to reduce this to, water flow from outside that zone into that zone?
I believe there's a stormwater pipe proposed and some outlet protection proposed there as well, but I don't know that they're installed because this project does not have an active issued
Yeah.
stormwater permit, hence the need for the variance.
Yeah, so just making sure that water coming down that slope is considered within what you're stating here.
So that water, I believe is discharged outside the buffer, so it would not require treatment. In the stormwater management ordinance, we require outlet protection to be stable.
Mhm.
And we actually rely on the erosion control ordinance design storm, because there's not a specific design storm stipulated in the stormwater ordinance, so it's the 25-year storm.
Okay, I was gonna ask you that next, so the
Yeah.
25-year storm is what.
So the
would be
25-year
over.
storm is what that, the calculations that are presented by the engineer will demonstrate that the flow from the 25-year storm will be non-erosive at that discharge point.
Thank you.
Now, I will say that it is the mountains. If it hits a tree, it's gonna reconcentrate downstream. But, at that point, it'll be non-erosive.
So Victoria, for the second condition there that we're going to lump in, that we're proposing here, can you give examples of what that looks like in terms of things that you and the applicant and the engineers would consider?
Yeah, so one question that I'll have, for example, how I would determine if it's maximum extent practicable is I will ask the engineer, have you considered pervious pavement or interlocking grid pavers or other types of mechanisms to not infiltrate in the roadbed, because it's not going to work in a compacted roadbed, but at least detain and then meter the runoff of that stormwater runoff to cool it with the gravel underneath the roadbed and then discharge it. Now, they may come back and say that all of the manufacturers say that the slope is too steep and it's not feasible. Okay, not an option. But I would ask for him to contact at least a few manufacturers of that type of material to make sure that we've vetted that solution. And one option that I know we will ask for, because it is standard practice, is permanent check dams within the ditches. This will create a small pool of water that moves slower down the ditch. It'll slow the water down, promote some level of infiltration, but those check dams are usually high porosity stone, so it will go through there, but it'll catch some sediment. It's a standard erosion control measure, and we will just, instead of having them take them out at the end of the project, we will say, please keep them in and make sure you maintain them. And that will slow the water down, help cool it off. We may look at some options at outlet protection. If the outlet protection can be designed to retain some water or infiltrate some water. Again, infiltration on slopes this steep is very challenging. We want to make sure that we're not doing anything that could impact the stability of the road. So options there may be limited. We might look at pipe storage. I think pipe storage may already have been proposed. I'm not sure if it was proposed or not actually at this location. Getting that water into an underground system and holding it for a little while and allowing it to meter out at a very slow rate can help. And again, to cool it, to get it, allow some settling to occur. But that would be another option that we would potentially look at. I'm trying to think of others.
And so I think what we're asking too is we're not trying to get the answer today, but it's can you and them work, or like the parties, so it'd be probably Mr. Wilkie, Brian's group, and you to come to as good as we can get for the maximum extent practicable on an answer.
Yes,
And we don't have to
absolutely.
have the answer today. We just are going for
Yes.
that objective.
We would basically go through the list of primary SCMs and proprietary SCMs that we commonly see and ask for an explanation for why they're not feasible here. And then if we get down to the bottom and there are no feasible ones, then we'll start looking at secondary measures and then, basically put in as much as we can.
So if we get down to it later on, a month or two out, and those conversations have been had, and one or more solutions y'all propose or insist on fits, it would be your professional opinion that that condition once built, that road once built will be an improvement on what's currently on the site, which is a
Yes.
graded road that's not serving its own, yeah.
Yes, I think that
Okay.
those measures will provide some water quality benefits beyond what is already out there.
And if at some point in the process, you all feel, or staff feels collectively that that's not enough under the guidance the board's provided under this language, would you be able, or maybe this is a question for Kurt, that can this come back to us? If staff's uncertain about whether what they come up with is enough, can they
Well,
come back?
Unless the stormwater administrator signs off on the conditions, that's part of the variance, then the variance wouldn't be granted. So yes, I think that they would have to come back or request a new variance based on the stormwater.
You're saying, like, if I say, I think this is practicable, and Wyatt says, it's not practicable, and we get into a deadlock, they would come back?
No, I'm saying if you didn't think it was,
Well, no, I mean, ultimately.
If you couldn't stamp it,
The condition's gonna be that you have to sign, that the stormwater administrator has to sign off.
Yeah.
And that, if you do not sign off on it, no variance has been, the
Right.
variance, the conditions for the variance have not been met.
dies,
Hence, they are not able to move forward with the project.
Right.
They would then need
as
to come back.
proposed, as proposed.
As
They can come through with another way,
Yes,
another.
they, or they would need to re-request the variance.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about my ability to get to what is reasonably maximum extent practicable. I feel pretty
Okay.
confident that we can get there.
Okay,
And in these conditions, I just want to, we've only got 30 feet of a road right-of-way. And so if they would have to extend outside of that 30 feet,
That's not
that is,
practicable.
Ms. Morsani, what you're saying, Mr. Wilkie would have to agree to that. 'cause
Yeah,
it's
I
not our
believe
property.
everything has to be done within the existing right-of-way
Yes.
because that's what the variance request is, because part of the right-of-way is in the vegetative stream buffer.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're able to.
Yeah, this is not, this would not be a suggestion for an alternate road or something like
No,
that.
Yep, just inside that 30.
That would be a completely new and different project should somebody decide that, hey, it's better, if your client decided that, hey, it's better off to build a new road, well, then you would need to go through all the steps of doing that, like making sure that there's the easement and,
Yeah, I just
and
want to
what-
make sure that the
yeah.
maximum extent practicable is contained within the 30-foot
Yes.
right-of-way.
yes,
Yeah, because that's all we have to deal with.
agree.
Okay.
so if you'll take that to your client, and then the board's quick show of hands on okay to move to 4:30 with the meeting? Okay, thank you so much. We'll take your quiet approval, Gabe. No, you can step out, but we'll just continue on if that's okay. Thank you. I think we're at a place there where we can have him check. We'll go ahead and do closing statements,
That sounds fine.
if that's okay. Do you have a question, Mr. Wilkie?
Yes,
Please speak in the microphone, sorry.
this may not be the time, but I'm not necessarily the sharpest tack in the drawer, but Mr. Edsel made one false statement that I would like to correct. It may be a moot point at this time, and
Well,
maybe. this
Yeah,
is
we'll
out of
consider
order,
it, you can make that, and we'll consider it this your closing statement, if you want to start with that, and then continue on to make your closing statement.
but- Okay.
Yeah.
No, so go ahead.
So go, so you, ma-
So
proceed,
this
yeah.
is where you can make your final statement as to why this variance should or should not be granted with or without the conditions and,
But go up to the stand, please.
Oh, I thought it was after.
no, it's your turn, it's your turn.
do I make a statement or can I ask questions? or-
No, it's just a
This
closing
is-
statement for you to, or your
Okay.
opportunity to say anything else you
Oh.
want to, or to wrap up, yeah.
This is a summary.
Mr. Edsel stated that all the water that would come from this new proposed road is it's all going to end up in the same place. It's all going in the creek, whether it's from the existing right-of-way or from this new road, and that is not true.
Well, I hate to object in the middle of his closing statement. That's not a closing statement. He's trying to offer additional testimony through his closing statement.
We're gonna take it under advisement.
Okay.
Yeah, so just, continue on.
Sure. My driveway is pitched into the bank, away from the creek, for, I'm guessing, more than 200 yards past the last culvert. And so all of that water and any sedimentation that comes down is trapped in that ditch, and it feathers out in between my property and my other neighbor to the west. It never makes it to the creek. Every year, maybe every 6 months, I have to go down and, with a machine, and scoop tons of gravel out of that area that flows in between the two properties, and I go back up and spread it back on my driveway. But that water and that debris never makes it into the creek. So I think it would be reduced even more if this alternate driveway were constructed, because almost all of that water runoff from the new proposed driveway is going to end up in that area between two properties that I guess eventually the water alone would make its way on down to Old Fort Road and then drain in two different directions. But from where that hits, it actually flows west, not east toward Echo Lake.
Talking about where the new driveways, where the
Right now,
west driveway?
the driveway, my driveway, for the last couple of hundred yards, all of that water is pitched in between my neighbor to the west. And all the silt it goes through undisturbed property.
Yeah.
And so once it hits Old Fort Road at that point, the majority of that is going to head west toward Dotson Road and away from Echo Lake. And so most of the water that comes off of this newly proposed road is going to fall into that category because it's going to be below the last culvert. And so that water is not going to make it into the creek. It can't get there.
And
I'll
I
be
don't
happy
want to
to-
argue. I think he's
We
looking at my
can't,
clock
it's not a
for
back and forth,
response, and
it's not a back and forth time, we're not gonna respond to
Yeah.
anything here, so, yeah.
I'm just saying that's, if we leave the road the way it is, all that water, there's no question about it, there's nowhere for it to go except in the creek. With this new proposed road, the water would be transferred into a different direction and would flow west once it got to Old Fort Road.
Which is a good thing in your mind,
I'm sorry?
which is a good thing in your mind,
I still didn't hear you.
which is a positive.
Yeah, it is a positive.
Thank you, yeah, okay,
There's no erosion there, there's no affected adjacent properties.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Mr. Maselli?
Yeah, I feel like myself and the community have said most of what needs to be said, but just want to implore that when you're considering this, that you look at these two things that are in the conditions for granting variance approval. Just really consider whether or not the hardship did not result from the actions taken by the petitioner, Mr. Stern. And also consider that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance, and will secure public safety and welfare, and will preserve substantial justice. So it does reference safety in there as well. I know we've been discussing water quality, which is a big portion of this.
Right.
But there is a reference to safety as well within your considerations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Goulden?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to be brief because you guys have 5 more minutes and I want to get this done. But the granting of this variance is not going to increase any rain events or the intensity of a rain events. That is not up to this variance. This variance will not increase rain events, the frequency of them or the intensity of them. This variance is guided by the standards that are in your Unified Development Ordinance under the stormwater provisions, which talk about unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the article. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property. The hardship did not result from actions taken by the petitioner. Everyone keeps saying that Mr. Stern did something that created this hardship. Well, what is the hardship on this variance? That, as Mr. Wilkie said, if you don't get the variance, you can't get to your property. So that's the hardship. Strict compliance, the hardship would be, Mr.
Can I
Stern
object
doesn't
to that?
get
No,
to,
no,
sorry,
you
no, you may
cannot
not.
interrupt.
No.
Okay.
doesn't get to his property. That was contained in the letter that Mr. Wilkie read. So with that hardship, was that created by Mr. Stern? It was not. Why wasn't it? Because in 1990, that right-of-way, that 30-foot right-of-way that gave him access to his property up to the high point was already established. So the hardship that Mr. Stern is suffering right now isn't his own creation. And then Mr. Maselli read the last part, and I will agree to him. It says, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of this article. When you go to the purpose of the article, it is to control stream channel erosion, prevent increased flooding associated with new development, protect floodplains, wetlands, water resources, and aquatic ecosystems. Conditions that Victoria has set out will do exactly that. That is the spirit, purpose, and intent of the storm water ordinance. He went on to say that the, I apologize. He went on to say that it will secure public safety and welfare and preserve substantial justice. Anything that this board considers has to be proven by competent material and substantial evidence. I think we have satisfied our burden of production to move forward that health, safety, and welfare with the conditions will be preserved. That the hardship of not getting to your property is not self-created, and it certainly is based upon the topography, the actual property itself. It's steep, it's in an area on this hill. We heard all of these individuals talk about how steep it is, which goes directly to point number 2, that it is peculiar to the property. It is a steep piece of property, as shown by Wyatt Etzel saying an alternative road with a short road distance is 30%. And what they're proposing is 18%. I can't imagine that people are objecting to having a less steep road. I understand their concerns. They're worried about the erosion control and all of that. Under the notice of violation, we're obligated under law to fix those. You can even put it in on a condition that we will fix those silt fences. Victoria has asked us to fix them. We've got permission to do that. We will do it. Make it a condition. But certainly, the small areas that encroach into the buffer, the vegetative buffer area, are needed in order to access. We would ask this board to grant the variance with the conditions that Victoria has proposed, along with the condition that we satisfy stormwater and erosion control measures, which is, we have to by law, but put that in there. We'd be happy.
Just to clarify, you said it already, but just to clarify, Mr. Stern, the applicant is
Acceptable with the conditions. I haven't seen them written out, but as best my chicken scratch could write out about the stormwater control measures in those areas that encroach into the stream, the vegetative buffer. Victoria.
Brian, I can read the conditions when you're ready.
Yes, for the board, but yes, read them, and then I think we would agree, because I think they're going to be similar.
The
to what I-
proposed conditions would be, number 1, minimize the direct discharge within the vegetated setback of unrelated stormwater, untreated stormwater runoff built upon, from the built-upon area to the maximum extent practicable as determined by the stormwater administrator.
Yes.
Yay? Okay. Provide water quality treatment of stormwater runoff from built-upon area located within the vegetative setback to meet high-density water quality standards to the maximum extent practicable as determined by the stormwater administrator.
Yes.
Thank you. Those would be the proposed conditions.
Thank you very much, sir. At this time, we will close the public hearing. We will open up for board discussion, deliberation, and motion. And I'll just start out by saying that, of course, the applicant came to us today or came to us months ago, actually, for the stormwater issue and that issue around where this road meets the access road. And so that's what's before the board. We've spent a lot of time talking about other second and third and fourth, options for locations of other roads. That's all nice and good if this doesn't work out, but this is about the primary entrance there. I, for one, was not okay. I'm not okay with their proposal to take the stormwater issue and set it aside and ignore those requirements that the water quality, water flow be disturbed. And so I'm happy with these conditions, these two conditions that would allow the applicant and staff to get together and figure out the best solution. And if there's not a solution that can be rendered, we can hear it again.
Yeah, I agree. I think that with the conditions, I feel comfortable with this variance going through.
Yeah, so do I.
Okay.
Other comments, thoughts?
Do you have a motion sheet?
One second.
Or did you want to?
Craig, what you think?
I'd be interested in the group's comment regarding ensuring public safety.
Whether with these conditions
Yeah,
that,
we've spent a lot of time on warm water and protecting of the stream, but also the question comes into play of, is our actions protecting the public safety?
yeah, we had a
So I think it's worthy that the board have a conversation about where we feel on that.
sure.
I feel like these steps do maintain public safety, and I think that Victoria is our person to watch that.
I also want to just make the board understand that landslides and other things are not really within the purview of the stormwater. Remember that this variance request is specifically a variance from the stormwater ordinance and doesn't deal with the other issues. So I want to make sure that when you're talking about public safety, that you're considering the public safety as it relates to the stormwater ordinance. And I don't know if that addresses, while I understand the concerns about landslides and building on the side of a mountain, but the fact that this variance request is for a setback in a vegetative buffer.
But the actions of the board in allowing the variance, if we do so with the knowledge that it introduces a threat to public safety, is what I'm a little interested in hearing
So I think that was my main concern throughout the whole hearing, but I think that when I asked Victoria a few minutes ago about whether the existing conditions on the property with two notice of violations and, first of all, are causing some of the erosion that they're seeing already in the silt, would this improvement help conditions there? And I think that was a resounding, oh, yes. So that's kind of where I am on this, yeah. My fear, just to be clear about public safety, is about further erosion of this embankment, the entire embankment into the lake. So
I would just echo what Kurt says. The conditions and the stormwater ordinance are not related to the landslide aspect of public safety. They are related to public safety insofar as stormwater runoff is concerned, but they are limited to so there are two components to the stormwater ordinance. There's water quality, which is what this variance is pertaining to, because stream buffers are typically considered a water quality provision. There's some water quantity benefits to it, but the other aspect is water quantity. That's the peak flow rate of runoff that comes off of a property. And the stormwater ordinance has a design storm in it, and that's the standard in Buncombe County. Is it enough to protect public safety? That's a question that not in the position to debate at the moment, because that is what our ordinance is, and that would have to go through the Board of Commissioners to change the standard design storm. But the design storm is for the 1-year, 24-hour storm. That's the water quantity, that's the public safety component of the ordinance. The treatment component is for water quality protection.
Right.
So they are very different, if that makes any sense. We do have the erosion protections as far as we require our conveyance to be, and our outlet protection to be designed to the 25-year storm to prevent erosion. And so I guess that does also have a public safety component to it. But there is, the conditions are, I don't want to conflate the conditions with public safety. They are definitely for water quality, if that makes sense.
Other thoughts? There are no comments during this period. If I hear an outburst, to identify who it is, we're going to ask you to leave. We're going to give you a minute. We're going to give you a minute, ma'am. There's a sheriff's deputy outside, so we're going to make sure that you're the only one, and we're going to move on after you're gone.
No, she's not gone. She's waiting at the door.
Ma'am,
Go ahead and pull the
please
sheriff's
exit.
deputy in.
Ma'am, you're excused from the room. You're excused from the room, ma'am. Thank
All right.
you.
I'd like to make a motion, but I don't have a motion sheet.
There's one right here.
We haven't heard from all,
Yeah, I want to hear back from.
we haven't heard from all
I
board.
mean, I
our
think
folks over here.
this is such a narrow scope item that's before us that is, yeah, I feel very comfortable with where we're headed with this, with the outcome that we're at. I don't feel like, a lot of the other things are enforcement things that are already on the books, that there is recourse financially and penalty-wise that the applicant may face down the road that's not part of our purview.
Mhm.
So I think we've come to a good resolution as far as this narrow-scoped variance for stormwater quality.
I want to be clear from staff too. I mean, I understand this now, but I want to make sure I'm correct on this, that under the conditions we propose, these 2 additional conditions, they enhance the current conditions and require the applicant to adhere to conditions on water quality that are more stringent than what they would have been having to comply with the load.
No.
No?
They
Okay.
are more lenient,
Mhm.
because we do have the maximum extent practicable there. I think it is unlikely that this site will be able to meet high-density water quality standards entirely. I think they can meet to the maximum extent practicable as much as we can.
Right.
I think that the topography, the location of the road, the restriction of the easement, all of that is going to make it very challenging to completely meet high-density standards. But I'm certainly gonna, Wyatt's gonna have to present some stuff.
But from a raw graded
From its
driveway
current
right now, from its
condition
current
of-
condition, we are
yes.
we are
From
going
a-
to drastically
From a condition
improve.
of not requiring a stormwater permit, which is also, just want to remind folks that the stormwater permit is only required when 1 acre of disturbances occurs. If this project had kept the disturbance under 1 acre, there would be no stormwater vegetated setback requirement.
I.e. a
at
shorter
all.
driveway.
If something
Or a
had gone
different driveway.
differently. So that's a nuance that I want to make sure that everyone has the context of, that the stormwater permit is required because he went over 1 acre of disturbance. And that's what's necessitating this vegetated setback from the stream, which is traditionally considered a water quality provision, to protect water quality.
Thanks for
Yeah.
clarifying that for me. Appreciate it. Other thoughts?
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say
Sorry,
that the
sir.
board, there's nothing the board can do to prevent
Rain events.
equivalent Hurricane Helene damage from happening again if the same storm happens. And I would hope nobody thinks that we have the ability to do that. I think that with what's been suggested, we're doing the best that we can do within the limits of what the ordinance says. And, period. I'll just put a period right there.
Joel?
Yeah, I agree with the conditions we put in be much better. I also agree not much we could do with weather these days, as we've seen by some events even the last couple days. I will say I'm kind of disappointed, because my feeling is the board tries to come to a situation or it'd be considered a win-win situation. And I'm disappointed because there was talk about options, and I don't know if miscommunication or whatever, but it is disappointing to me that both parties couldn't get together to try to resolve this.
And I compound what they're saying. It's certainly not something I feel good about, but I know, I've spent a lot of time sitting out there, and I know sometimes these things don't seem self-evident, but we have a very narrow focus. I mean, to address what you were saying, we could turn this project down because we didn't feel good about the traffic, because it would, but that's not our purview. And so I think same thing. I mean, there's all kind of things to find wrong, but that's, we're looking at this sort of through a microscope.
Well, I appreciate the board's conversation for my benefit, but also for the benefit of the folks
And
out
that's,
there.
like I said, I feel
These-
terrible, and I understand why the attitude is what it is. I get it, but we're asked to do a job that sometimes doesn't feel good.
Correct.
Okay, I think we might have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, based on the evidence presented to this board, including the following exhibits, the petitioner's application, submitted site plan, GIS maps, the staff report, testimony presented, and the additional conditions, I move that this board adopt the following findings of fact: that this matter was properly advertised, is within the board's jurisdiction, and is ripe for consideration; that this application, together with the conditions proposed by staff and/or board and agreed to by the applicant, does meet the requirements for granting a variance contained in Buncombe County Code of Ordinances, Section 26362B9.
There's been a motion on findings of fact, and that, I think I did hear that included those two motions we've outlined in detail, as well as the curing the notice of violation fully. That's also a condition that the. We do. 90.
Don't they have a deadline on
You-
those
you-
NOVs anyway?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
It's already in the notice,
No.
yeah.
There's already a deadline.
And they're already being fined, though, for, yeah. If we include it as a condition, though,
I'm
it's.
sorry, but yes, there is a deadline. We are already past that deadline. That's why you're getting a little
So
facial.
if we
from me.
say, for instance, if we say 90 and.
You could condition
condition.
that, well, I don't know if they can, Kurt, I'm gonna look to you. You could condition that the stormwater permit will not be issued until the NOV, the erosion control NOV is cleared. Is that allowable?
Yeah, I think that's, once again, it's a variance request in the board.
Okay, we've cleared the initial concept with the applicant. I want to make sure 90 is okay with, is 90 is okay with staff?
No, I would not give them they,
She's saying not to do that.
Oh, don't do that.
no, don't do that. So, we, for violations, like, for the issues on the site, we would give significantly less than 90 days
Yeah.
to address the issues, because all they need to go on is maintain the erosion control measures. They've already passed that deadline. We're gonna be going out there to inspect again to see if they've rectified it. I suspect they have not, based on, the previous testimony from Alistair, and I think he had a misunderstanding that he couldn't do the work. That was not the case. So I would not want to put a date in there.
So I think the idea would be is that the stormwater permit would not be issued until the erosion control violations have been remedied.
That's okay with us, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
on
the
their back,
fines have
yeah.
been paid, can we put that in?
What was that?
Full
I do
remedy of
not
that.
know if a
Sorry?
civil penalty's been issued.
A civil penalty has not been issued yet. We
I think everything kind of, any enforcement, a lot of it was based on whether or not this variance.
Not on the erosion control side, sorry to
No, that's
step in
fine.
there. So this project has received a notice of violation for failure to correct. That was the May 20th, 2025, one that I was just talking about. Yes, it's a more recent one. And so we have given them a deadline to comply. We will go out and inspect again to see if they have complied. If they have not, we will get an NOCV. And then depending on if they, typically if we get rapid response from the applicants, we don't go the civil penalty route because Civil penalties take a lot of staff time. We have very limited staff capacity. But if we do not get a rapid response, then we will go the civil penalty route. So we will evaluate, if they've already fixed it, there will, we won't do any civil penalties. But if they have not fixed it, we will evaluate if we're at the point where civil penalties are appropriate.
Then let's keep those compliance issues tied to the permit issuance of this stormwater permit and ignore any dates.
So I would.
Keep that process rolling through your office.
So I would propose, and please let me know if you object, no stormwater permit shall be issued until the applicant remedied all of the erosion control violations as set forth by staff.
Yes?
Thank you.
Agreed.
So we have a motion with those conditions, those three conditions. All those in favor? Did we get a second? No, we didn't get a second. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, got a
Aye.
second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any opposed? Raise your hand. Thank you. That passes. Is there a second motion?
Yes. Based on the foregoing finding of fact and for reasons set forth therein, I move that this requested variance be approved and that staff be instructed to draft an order consistent with the motion approving the permit with any agreed upon conditions for review and execution by the chair, acting chair, or such persons designee on behalf of the board.
There's been a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Raise your hand. That passes. Thank you so much. We'll ask.
Were you in favor
That was a
or
yay.
opposed?
That was a yes, right? Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to be sure.
And we'll thank everybody. We'll ask staff to present an order on this.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, let's do it.
If you would, yeah.
I will try to be brief. Oh, Brian.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
I was
no.
going to get
No,
that.
sorry, I didn't see what you had going on there.
No, I know, I get it. Yeah, okay.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the board, the findings of fact that, once again, this board has jurisdiction over this matter, and it's right for consideration that all notices were sent and proper signage was posted on the properties, that the applicant has requested a variance pursuant to the Stormwater Management Ordinance, Section 28 or 26-362B9 and Section 362B1 on tax lot 0607-71-9996, an unaddressed parcel off of Old Fort Road. That this hearing, the applicant and parties withstanding were given the opportunity to offer oral and documentary evidence, as well as submit questions to each other, the county staff and board members, that an unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of the stormwater ordinance of Buncombe County, that the hardship does result from conditions that are particular to the property, that the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner, that the variance request is consistent with the spirit and purpose and intent of the ordinance, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice would be achieved by granting the same. The following conditions, which are reasonably related to the variance, would be imposed. Number one, minimize the direct discharge within the vegetated setback of untreated stormwater runoff from the built-upon area to the maximum extent practicable as determined by the stormwater administrator. Provide water quality treatment of stormwater runoff from the built-upon area located within the vegetative setback to meet the high-density water quality standards to the maximum extent practicable as determined by the stormwater administrator, and that no stormwater permit shall be issued until the applicant remedied all of the erosion control violations as set forth by staff. Based upon the foregoing findings of fact, the board hereby makes the following conclusions of law: that the application, together with the conditions referenced above, satisfies the requirements for granting a variance contained in the Buncombe County Stormwater Ordinance, and that now, based on the foregoing findings of fact and conclusions of law, the Buncombe County Board of Adjustment orders that the applicant's request for variance from the Stormwater Ordinance on the property is hereby granted, subject to the conditions referenced in the findings above. This the 9th day of July, 2025.
Any board questions, any corrections, or motion?
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? That passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anything else from staff today?
I do not believe so.
Okay, me either. Anything else from the board?
Huh?
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Oh,
Please say aye.
I think everybody just wants to thank you all for staying late and getting this matter resolved today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to Kate for all of the,
Miss
Technical difficulties.
exactly, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.